All right, howdy, folks, and welcome back to the Jason Eldridge Photo Show. Today, I have a very special guest, Luca the Space Koala. So, how are you doing, Luca? Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's Lutza. It's very close. Thank you very much,
Oh,
Jason, for having me here.
okay. So, Luca.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, if anybody is interested in astrophotography, chances are they've already seen you and found your YouTube channel and watched your videos, which are excellent, by the way, very detailed. A lot of information. You've helped me out on what I was going to buy and not buy, so I really appreciate that too. So the space koala, that one was a little weird. So how did you come up with that name?
First of all, thank you for saying all those nice things. Um, I mean, the story is quite short and sweet. It's because I love koalas. I think that they're the cutest thing ever. I've always liked them. And then I took a trip to Australia in 2018, and that's when I became totally obsessed with them. And you know how you have all of these smart devices nowadays that you get to name on your Wi-Fi network. So everything was already called Koala in my home. And then there came the time of trying to come up with an Instagram page. No, actually, I think it was like a Facebook page first for my
Okay.
astrophotography. And there I had the dilemma of what do I call it? And there were already a million pages named these deep space, galaxy, the beauty of the universe, all of those things. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to call it something koala. At least that's unique. At
Yeah.
first, it was actually called koala photography, but then I
Okay.
realized that it's a mouthful, and so I changed it to the space koala.
Well, I have to tell you, that was what caught my attention to begin with, because I had seen your videos, as you're scrolling through and they pop up, and then I watched one, and it was the space koala and the little sound that you always have after it. That absolutely stuck with me day after day. I just kept thinking about it, and I thought it was kind of neat. So, how did you decide to get into doing a YouTube channel? I mean, did you wake up one day and say, I'm going to do an astrophotography YouTube channel?
No, not really. I had the YouTube channel for forever, but it was really like two or three time lapses for my own entertainment. I never thought anybody would ever watch them. However, I was quite active on TikTok and
Okay.
Instagram and some of the other social media pages, and I was doing these short videos. And one day there was this like trend essentially of why photographers don't post raw images. And then I did that trend with astrophotography where the raw images were just like, mono black and white
Mhm.
images, not so beautiful. And then there was like the full-fledged color, maybe Hubble palette image. And that went like semi-viral on TikTok, and I got thousands of comments saying, "Wow, I knew it was all fake. You guys make up the colors. This is all not real." And so that inspired me to make my first long form content, which was about, are these colors real? Where did the colors come from? And there was like maybe a 15-minute video that I did on YouTube. And I had such an overwhelmingly positive response that I never expected, that people actually wanted to see that. And they were like, this is
Yeah,
so cool. Do more of this. I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to do this from now on because I found it really fun as well.
that's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of that. The colors are fake, all of that stuff. So it's amazing that that ended up blowing up into the YouTube channel that you have today. So that's pretty awesome. So how did you get into astrophotography in the first place? Is that something you've always done, or?
Absolutely not. So space was the part that I was always interested in it ever since I
Mhm.
was a little girl. I was like 4 or 5 when I was always asking about planets. So my parents bought me. I remember my first book. It was called something like The Secrets of Stars and Planets, and it was made for like 5-year-olds. But I still have it, and I mean, it contains mostly accurate information. It was scientific for a 5-year-old, and then my
Right.
parents would take me to these outreach events. And I was like, "Can I please get a telescope?" But I didn't get a telescope until much, much later. I bought my first telescope in 2020, and I it wasn't with the intention of taking pictures. I wanted to just see everything, and I thought, I'm fortunate enough that I have a large open balcony because I live on the top floor. I have a very open view, so I'm just gonna see everything from my balcony. And then the realization hits that I live in the city and there are very, very few things that I can see. And that's when I started going on these online forums and I saw that there are people taking pictures of
Mhm.
what I thought was like probably invisible things, like nebulas and galaxies, and there were details and there were colors. And I was like, these people are able to take these pictures with the same telescope that I have. So I was like, I have to do this. So it was really with the intention of seeing things that I cannot see with my eyes. And then, of course, it then transitioned into something much more conscious of trying to make the invisible visible, things that nobody would ever see essentially.
So how long have you been doing astrophotography as compared to like the YouTube channel?
So astrophotography, I would say since 2021.
Okay.
And then the YouTube channel, I started it more seriously ish in summer 2024.
Okay.
So
So
I
it's
had been doing it for quite a bit when I started to venture on YouTube.
okay. Excellent. Yeah, I've been doing this since March. I've been a
Okay.
terrestrial photographer for a long time, and I've always been interested in astronomy and all that kind of stuff. And eventually, it just got to where I wanted to try to figure out how to put the two together. And then I started seeing all the images, and I live in West Palm Beach, Florida, and we're in Bortle 7 here, and I've got a site a few miles away that's a Bortle 4, so it's not too bad.
No, that's
Um,
lovely.
but the issue was is I was like, well, it's I'm not going to be able to take these images, and then I came across Quiv, the Lazy Geek,
Mhm.
and I was like, if he can do it from the middle of Tokyo, surely I can do it
Yeah,
from
exactly. You have no
near my
excuse
house.
then.
Yeah. So every time I watch one of your videos, I am just in envy of the location that you're in, but it can't all be rainbows and unicorns. What are some challenges in the place that you live for astrophotography?
Right. So actually, the place that I live is not what you see in the videos. Most of
Okay.
the videos that I post nowadays, like there is this background
Mm.
I have in some of the videos where I mostly talk, which are the videos that I shoot from home. But for a long time now, I have been going out to the mountains to do all of my astro stuff because I live in a very light polluted area. It's exactly the same situation as you. So this is a Bortle 7, but if I drive out an hour and a half, that is a Bortle 4, and that is a huge difference. Like
Yeah.
people might think Bortle 4, well, that's not even dark. It is dark. For all intents and purposes, the true Bortle 4 is dark and it is beautiful. And so I do go out there. The challenge is obviously that Switzerland is not famous for permanent sunshine and dry weather, especially not in the mountains. So of course that is one side of it. We don't get as many clear skies as we would like to, and then especially in the mountains, sometimes it is a bit unpredictable as well. Like
Hmm.
you set up your stuff, you spend 2 hours setting up two or three telescopes, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get the best pictures ever. And then half an hour later, the clouds roll in, and this is a possibility. And it does happen. But then, you just have to pedal through because they might just go away after an hour.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the cold, which if you're lucky enough to live in Florida, it may be this you don't relate to,
No.
but I'm even cold when it's not so cold. So for me, being out there in the high mountains, it's always cold. Like even in the summer, you have to dress up because at night it does get quite cold. And then, of course, now we already have snow up there, so
Oh my
there
goodness.
there's a lot of areas where you can't drive to. There are certain parts where they clean the roads and you can go all year round, or you have to walk in the snow, or you have to get a special vehicle or what have you. So yeah, those are definitely the challenges. But I have to say that as cold as it is, there is nothing more beautiful than those pitch dark, pitch black skies in the high mountains on a cold night. Like that is like on another level, beautiful transparency. It gets really, really dry as well. So
Oh,
those nights
nice.
are actually really great.
Yeah, we're exactly opposite. You know, we're at sea level. It's humid as all get out. The coldest in the winter. It might. might get into the low 40s or upper 30s a couple of days, but most of the time at night, like last night I was out, it was 63 or 64 degrees, and that's about as cool as it'll get for the winter here. Occasionally it'll be a little bit cooler, but we still have all the atmosphere, we've still got all the humidity. It does go away a little bit for us in the winter, so I'm kind of excited. It's the winter season here. The summer
So how does it
season
feel
is
to be
the
living my dream?
Yeah, it's, like last night I had to have a little, coat on. So, that's about as bad as it gets here for that.
Oh,
But on
wow.
the downside, we live in the tropics, so the summertime is the rainy season. So when all the nice nebula come out and all that kind of stuff, we end up having a lot of clouds, so we don't get to see
You get
them very
mosquitoes
much.
as well, don't you?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, the mosquitoes are insane. So we live pretty close to the Everglades National Park, and I used to be a guide in the Everglades, and the mosquitoes. I've got one little video. If I'd give anything if I could find it. It was on an old phone, but I had my camera set up on a tripod, and I'm in what's called a cypress dome, and I was looking at my camera, and it looked like it was moving, and I just touched it like this, and this big plume of mosquitoes just came up. I'm like, oh, this is not
Um,
fun. But yeah, we've got some mosquitoes here.
yeah.
The uh, do you have a favorite target that you like to go after? What nebula, galaxies, clusters?
Um,
What's your
I
favorite?
feel like my favorites are evolving over time.
Okay.
So originally I was like super into planets, right? But you have like two planets you can take two good pictures of, and I'm not even that good at that. So then, as I said, I was really into deep sky, but then deep sky, you have tons of different types of subjects, and I have favorites. In terms of what I find most interesting, those are galaxies because I just find it mind blowing that I'm able to take pictures of something that is so far away and you get to see the nebulas within another galaxy. Like, that is insane. However, in terms of my photos that I think come out best, those are probably like the dark nebula photos slash the
Okay.
really dense star fields of the Milky Way. And those are uh, such, I don't want to say easy, but they're like really rewarding targets because
Hmm.
if you point your telescope, even if it's just like a small refractor, you point it at one of those dense fields and the summer Milky Way, like the Milky Way core, you can just expose for 2 hours and you get the absolutely most beautiful picture you've ever seen because it is just insane. You're looking at this carpet of millions and millions of stars. So that is one of my favorites, definitely.
That's the nebula is what got me interested in the beginning, and then recently I shot my first galaxy, which was of course Andromeda, and
Hmm.
it turned out for me anyway. It turned out wonderful, and I'm looking forward to spending more time on it. But the nebula really catch my attention, basically, I guess, because still a one shot color guy, so there's a lot of red, a lot of hydrogen alpha,
Okay.
but I found a few that were also blue, and I love the color and the swirls and everything that you just can't see with your eyes, and you point a
Yeah.
telescope at it, and you get something amazing almost every time. So,
Yeah. So you like the emission nebulas as well.
mhm. I do like the emission. I recently did M45 and I believe that's a reflection nebula, and that one was kind of neat too. I really like the way it turned out. But emission nebula, and I use narrowband filters
Hmm.
to bring those out. But I've only shot maybe 6 or 7 of them total so far
Okay. I mean, if you, when did you say you started? You said in March.
in March. Right.
Oh,
I,
so
s-
you're like you have the whole sky ahead of you still.
yeah, yeah. Just I started putting everything together in March, and I finally got it all together around April, May, somewhere around in there, and I've had a few nights since then to get out. Uh, like last week, last night. I'm going to go again tonight. It looks like it's going to be nice and clear, and I'm on vacation, so no day job
Oh,
tomorrow.
nice.
Yeah. So out of all of them, do you have one in particular you like? One nebula that you like?
You're asking me something really difficult. I love all of them, but maybe I can specify a subset. Maybe if we can agree on
Okay.
that. I really like all of those nebulas that have like a fantasy name because of the shape that they're in. So like all the animal
Okay.
nebulas. So when I've shot the shark nebula, the giraffe nebula, the squid, the what else?
Um,
The scorpion. I just love when they come in a shape because I feel like it is so insane because it's just a coincidence that we see that blob of gas in that shape. But it's
yeah.
so crazy because the shark actually looks like a shark. Like it has the eye and the fins and everything. And I find those like those are my favorites.
You know, you need to really start searching for a koala. You
They
need
have one.
an actual space
There is
koala
one.
nebula.
There is one, and I never managed to shoot it. So
Oh, no.
inside the Lobster Nebula, which for
Lobster.
me is very, very south, but for you actually it's much more doable. I don't know what latitude you're at, but I'm at 46 degrees, so it's very, very
Oh,
low for
wow.
me.
Yeah, we're at
Um, there
37 or
is the
so.
central part of the Lobster Nebula, which looks like a koala sitting there. And so
Mhm.
that is on my bucket list. So when if I get to travel to a southern location and I get to bring a large-ish telescope, that's gonna be what I'm going for.
Excellent. So that actually leads me into another question about nebula, about galaxies in general. Is I always like to ask, what what do you do different? I mean, you point your telescope at the same thing. It's the same nebula. It's kind of been that way for a while. It's going to be that way for a long time. So, how do
Yeah.
you keep it interesting? How do you make it different? What do you do when you're like, okay, well, I've shot the Andromeda galaxy. I've shot it a lot. Now I'm going to go do it again. What do you do to make that kind of stuff different?
Okay. Um, well, I think in the first few years that you start out, there is the obvious answer, which is I'm gonna get a better picture this year because I think that all of us went through that with some subjects like M45 and M31 and M42. Like it's something that you're probably gonna shoot every year or almost every year. And you are just so proud when you look at this year's picture versus last year's picture because you see look how much more detail I have now. Look how much nicer it looks. This works for a few years, but then you're like, you want more and you want something different. And that's
Hmm.
when I think this is when this challenge starts that you're referring to.
Hmm.
And that is to make it different. Because if you're going to shoot the same exact image as 5,000 other people this year, maybe for some people that's enough because it's fine because you took that. But some people want something more or different. And this
Hmm.
is where nebulas give you all the room that you possibly need because as soon as you zoom in a little bit more into a nebula, it gives you an infinite possibilities
Hmm.
of how you rotate your camera and how you frame it and how you crop it. The composition is such a powerful tool that maybe some people underestimate, I think, because some people, just point it and they're
Hmm.
happy with whatever comes out. I think it makes such a huge difference when you have a very conscious and balanced or interesting composition that it can make a well-known nebula completely new. So I think we're never gonna run out of targets. I mean, the sky is already full of targets, but even with the existing ones, you can always reinvent it.
Then in terrestrial photography, I kind of liken it to you go to these vistas that everybody goes to, the same place Ansel Adams went to, the exact same mountain range that everybody's photographed, and you show up and you take the same picture that everybody else has. But for me, I try to get the 100 to 400 lens out, and then I'm zooming in and I'm finding all these different vignettes and these different aspects of the image that maybe people don't shoot that much. And so I'm kind of thinking that like you just said, it works that way with nebula, maybe not as much with galaxies, because like picking out part of Andromeda would just be kind of strange. But the nebula for sure, uh, it's endless. You
But, like,
can.
you never know actually because you would think that there is 0 novelty you can find in Andromeda,
Mhm.
And then there were the guys, Falls and Co. of 2 or 3 years ago, who just decided to discover the giant oxygen arc next to Andromeda that hundreds of thousands of people have photographed before, and yet you still find something new. And it is
Yeah.
incredible because if there is something next to Andromeda, then there might be something anywhere. So you never know. And
Oh,
also
no,
there's
that's
also the types of pictures where which cannot be repeated. And those I find also very interesting. For example, if you have a comet or especially a
mm,
comet passing next to something, that is a picture that can never be repeated again in your lifetime because maybe
that's
that
right.
comet will come back in 12,000 years. Those photos are so unique. Like you can always do something new.
Yeah, recently I was in, I think I talked about it the last interview I had, but was recently in Joshua Tree National Park, and I was hosting back-to-back night workshops where you do terrestrial photography, but
Mhm.
of the night sky, ultra wide 14 millimeter lens,
Yeah.
get the Milky Way, that kind of stuff. And it was at the very end of 2 weeks, and I'm exhausted. I'm having to deal with 24 different people over that 2 week period. I'm just tired, and I'm wanting to put my gear up. And I look over, and I was like, you know what? That's the Northwest. And so I had a big lens, 100 to 400, and I just started pointing it in that direction. And sure enough, I came across the comet, and I zoomed in. I didn't get a great shot of it, but it was a comet that I will never see again in my lifetime or
The
any
lemon
lifetime.
one.
The lemon. Yep. And it was really neat to capture it, or to at least be able to find it at bare
Yeah.
minimum, because I couldn't see it
Yeah.
with my eyes. But I just love that, and you're right. That's a shot that I will never be able to repeat again,
And
and
nobody
being
else will. So
and nobody else will. That's right. That's right. Although I've always said that I plan to live forever, and so far so good, so maybe I'll get a chance. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about gear, but before I do that, I want to ask you about astrophotography. Do you see it as a science or an art or both, or do you favor one or the other?
I personally think that it's absolutely both. I think based on what you told me, it seems like we're coming from two very different ends of the spectrum, but we came together in astrophotography because I came from wanting to know the night sky and doing amateur astronomy, and I came
Mm,
to I want to take pictures because I can't see stuff, and you came from already taking beautiful pictures, and then you were like, I want to photograph space as well, and then we came together in one place. So I feel like we're coming from different directions, but at the end, the goal is the same. And I think that nowadays, this is a very, very important question because with the rise of AI,
oh
it
yeah.
is becoming more and more difficult to tell what is real and what is not. And I think that some people might even be discouraged, like, why would I even spend all that money and all that effort if I can just ask ChatGPT to generate the image? I
Exactly.
I come from the exact opposite of that point of view because for me personally, it makes what I do that much more valuable because if in a few years nobody will be able to differentiate between a real image and an AI image, I can put my telescope out and I can know that what I took, the picture that I took is real. And I think this gives us this power, but this also gives us the responsibility that the pictures that we do produce reflect reality. And
Mhm.
I think that there are some principles. So you do have artistic freedom in a lot of things, like the contrast that you want to have and maybe the palette that you want to do. But we must keep it scientific because what we are doing is measurement of some sort of astrophysical phenomenon or bodies, right? So I think that the science part must not go away, but we do have a lot of artistic freedom. And that's the part that makes it so that it's creative and it's never boring.
Yeah, it's actually that way. That's how I sort of view nature photography in general, is that I can go to ChatGPT and I can ask it to show me a picture of the Grand Tetons with a cabin in front of it, and sure enough, I'll get a picture that looks, pretty decent. Uh, but for me, a big part of it is being there in the location, and being the one that physically takes that
Yeah.
photograph because I know it's real. I know that place exists. Yeah, when I get it back, I edit it. I saturate the colors. I add the contrast. If there's a piece of garbage or a rock or something that's weird, I'll take it out. But I never add anything to it. But I'm
Yeah.
kind of the same way with astrophotography in that I'm out there, and that's my favorite part of all of it, of photography in general, is that I'm not in my house. I'm out of my house. I'm outside, I'm doing things, I'm experiencing the world instead of just asking Chat GPT to experience it for me. So I think you're absolutely dead on that we need to keep doing this because it's important to know what's real and what isn't,
Yeah. Besides, you
even if
cannot
we're
make
changing.
discoveries and you cannot do science based on ChatGPT images. So real measurements are important. It's not like, I mean, I'm expecting to discover something, but it is the science. And the other thing is just generation and reflecting the training data of the AI.
Yeah, I had recently I was out and I had a visual only astronomer tell me that there was no place in astronomy for astrophotography because none of it was real and that you couldn't see it with your own eyes. And I'm like,
That
that's
is
not
such a
true at
strange
all.
take from an actual astronomer.
Yeah, he was ran a planetarium for 20 something years, and he was like, there's no place in astronomy at all for it. I'm like, that's a very strange strange hill to die on. So,
Also
but I
because astronomers, like actual astronomers, all they do is take pictures, right? I
that's
mean,
right. Yeah.
nobody does actual astronomy nowadays looking into the eyepiece. You just do that for fun.
Right. Yeah, and astronomy is taking a picture and taking another picture and comparing the two, see what's
Yeah,
changed, see what's still the same. Yeah, it was very strange. I just told him I feel that there's plenty of room for both. For those that
yeah.
want to do visual, for those that want to do photography, and I've fallen in love with the astrophotography is what it amounts to, which is why you're the fourth one in a row astrophotographer that I've had on my YouTube channel, which has pretty much always been about nature photography. So
Mhm.
I consider this just an extension of that, and it is all nature. So I
Yeah.
can kind of keep it under that umbrella, and I want to actually talk a little bit about that because most of the people that are watching this channel, all two of them, they they are either
Your mom
into
and
nature
dad.
photography or they're considering getting into astrophotography. So if someone's just wanting to get their feet wet, what do you recommend they start with? Or how do you recommend they start? Not going out and buying a bunch of gear that they don't know how it works, of course, but what's a good first step for them?
I think it really depends on where you're coming from because if you're saying that these are people that view your channel and you do nature photography, then I would assume that these are people who may already have a camera, a tripod,
Hmm.
and that's actually a perfect place to start because there's stuff that you can already do with the camera and the tripod. So if you want to get just dip your feet into the sea of astrophotography at zero cost and zero risk, that is something you can do. You can take untracked Milky Ways, especially if you have like a nice bright wide angle lens. There's no reason you couldn't take beautiful Milky Way images. Just stack a bunch of them, even if you don't have a tracker. You can take very, very interesting star trail images. You can take the brightest deep sky images, even with a zoom lens, just a lot of very, very short exposures that does get a bit demanding. But
Hmm.
then, even with minimum investment, you can just purchase a star tracker. And if you learn how to set it up, then there is really an ocean of things you can do. Of
Hmm.
course, if you are willing to, decide that this is something that you want to do, then there is a certain amount of investment that you will have to eventually do over time. And nowadays, I feel like it's become more and more affordable for anyone. So there is a solution for $300 and there is a solution for 30K. So it really
Right.
depends on how much you're willing to spend. If, however, somebody is coming from a background of zero knowledge of any photography and zero knowledge of astronomy, and you're just like, wow, galaxies are cool, I want to see them. honestly get a smart telescope because nowadays you can get one for a couple $100. Your astronomer friends would like would really be outraged at what I'm saying right now. But I think that they're the most welcome addition in the world of astronomy because you can spend 400, $500. You get a little box that does everything for you. You throw it out and you can start observing and seeing the most interesting and the brightest and the more, you can see anything really. It's just a matter of patience with very little effort, and you don't risk spending your life savings on something that maybe after a few months you don't find as interesting. But then if you think that it's cool, then you can already build on top of that, and I think they're a very good place to start if you don't have any equipment yet.
Yeah, I completely agree. I started with just my normal camera stuff, but I ended up putting this together starting in March. And after we went to Joshua Tree, my son, he was there and he helped out, and someone gifted him a Sea Star 50.
Okay.
And it was here at the house when we got here. They mailed it to him, and just for him being him. And I'm amazed at what that little Sea Star 50 will do. You can just set it on the ground, maybe spin it around 3 times and hit a button, and it will find what you want it to find, and it will take images, and images you can just download to your phone, and it's amazing. If you're looking for a way to get started into
Yeah,
astrophotography and you're not sure, I can't think of a better way than one of the sea stars or the dwarfs. I've never worked with those, but it's simply amazing at the cost, at the functionality of it. And yes, I can get better pictures with this, but I it's really easy
but
to
you
set it down
did
and start
spend
working.
10 times as much on it,
Yeah.
didn't you? So I think
Yes.
I think that they're incredible, and I recommend them to everyone.
Yeah, it lowers that barrier of entry too. It lets people get in and see if it's something they want, and without spending an absolute fortune.
Yeah,
And the more people I think we have in astrophotography, the better off we're going to be,
yeah,
especially with that whole AI thing. It gets people outside. I mean, if nothing else. So,
I fully agree.
all right. So, what is next for the space koala?
I wish I knew. So I'm sure that you are in the exact same situation along with every other astrophotographer. At any given time, I have approximately 1,500 projects going on, right? Be it both actual astrophotography projects, and I have one that I've been doing since end of July, and it will go on for a few more months. But
Mm,
also in terms of things that I'm doing for the channel, I have a couple of things in the pipeline. I always want to do more, and of course, the one thing that I never have enough of is time. So that is the main limiting factor because I want to do so many things. Um, but also nowadays, I've been experimenting a lot with physically building things to make my gear
oh,
better. So I'm trying to perfect some little things. I mean, I don't want to like go into details here, but the
mhm.
idea is that they should help me optimize my gear, and if it comes out, I will be sharing it on the YouTube as well. So there's no saying what the future brings. I just hope I do much more of what I'm doing today.
Oh, excellent. Well, I wish you nothing but the best, and I hope your
Thank
channel
you.
continues to grow. And it actually takes me all the way back. The first one that I saw was the one where you had 5 telescopes out at the same time, and you were setting them all up. And here I am trying to figure out how to set one up, and you've got
You
5
were like,
running at
who
the
is
same
this
time. I'm like,
weirdo?
I can't understand what's happening right now. So that was great. But I'm really looking forward to your channel and what you're bringing to it, and I'll watch everything that you put out. So I really
Oh, thank you
appreciate
so
your time.
much.
Thank you for coming on the show, and like I say, I wish you only the best.
Thank you very much, Jason, and I wish you the best as well. Explore the whole sky.